If you have Spanish ancestry, whether through your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, or potentially even great-great-grandparents, you might be eligible to claim Spanish citizenship under the Democratic Memory Law, also known as the Ley de Nietos, or Grandchildren's Law. But here's the critical part. The deadline to submit your application is October 21st, 2025. That's just a few months away, and the process can take time, so you need to act fast. In this video, I'm going to walk through everything you need to know about Spanish citizenship by descent, eligibility, required documents, the application process, costs, timelines, and key tips to avoid common pitfalls. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear path to how to secure your Spanish passport and unlock the benefits of EU citizenship. So first, let's talk about what the Democratic Memory Law is and why it matters. It was enacted in October 2022, and this law expands access to Spanish citizenship for descendants of Spaniards who were affected by historical events, particularly those exiled during the Spanish Civil War and Franco's dictatorship from 1936 to 1975. It's a way for Spain to address past perceived injustices by allowing descendants to reclaim their heritage. The law initially had a 2-year window, set to expire in October 2024, but the Spanish government extended it by 1 more year to October 21st, 2025, due to overwhelming demand. Over 300,000 applications have already been submitted, with more than half coming from Latin America and the US. This extension gives you extra time, but don't wait until the last minute, as consulates are swamped and document preparation can take weeks or even months. Honestly, starting 2 months ahead of time might not even be enough time, but you might as well give it a shot if you are eligible. And if you're wondering, maybe they'll extend it another year, well, every immigration professional that I've talked to, I'm in the immigration space, all of my peers and other people in the industry, we're all pretty sure that it's truly closing this time. And that's pretty common, because in this world of residency and citizenship, it always gets harder, not easier. So who qualifies for Spanish citizenship under this law? There are 3 main groups. First, children or grandchildren of Spanish citizens who were exiled for political, ideological, religious, or other reasons and lost or denounced their Spanish nationality as a result. This includes people who fled to countries like Argentina, Cuba, Mexico, or the US during the Civil War or dictatorship. Second, children of Spanish women who lost their citizenship by marrying a foreigner before the 1978 Spanish Constitution. Back then, Spanish women automatically lost their nationality if they married a non-Spaniard, a perceived discriminatory rule this law aims to correct. And the third group is children of people who gained Spanish citizenship through earlier memory laws, like the 2007 historical memory law, but couldn't pass it on due to legal restrictions such as age limits. If you fall into one of these 3 categories, you are eligible, even if you've never lived in Spain or speak little Spanish. There's no residency requirement, no language test, and no need to renounce your current citizenship if you're from a country with a dual citizenship agreement with Spain, like most Latin American countries, Portugal, Andorra, the Philippines, etc. Now let's move on to the application process. It's straightforward, but requires careful preparation because missing documentation or errors can lead to delays or rejection. Step 1 is to confirm your eligibility. Check your family history to see if your parent, grandparent, or great-grandparent was a Spanish citizen and fits in one of the scenarios I mentioned earlier. You'll need to trace your lineage clearly, so start digging into family records now. Step 2 is gathering documents, which I'll cover in detail shortly. And then step 3 is submitting your application at the Spanish consulate in your country of residence, or if you live in Spain, at the local civil registry, the Registro Civil. Some consulates now offer digital pre-registration, which I'll explain later. Step 4 is waiting for approval, which can take 6 to 12 months depending on the consulate's workload. Finally, if you're approved, you'll swear allegiance to the Spanish Constitution, register with the civil registry, and apply for your Spanish DNI, which is the national ID, and a passport. So let's break down the documents you need, as this is where most people get stuck. The core documents you need are your birth certificate, your parents' birth certificate, and your Spanish ancestor's birth certificate from the Spanish Civil Registry. If your ancestor was born in Spain, but their birth wasn't registered, you might need historical records like baptismal certificates or municipal archives. You also need proof of your ancestor's Spanish nationality, such as a Spanish passport, a DNI, or civil registry record. If they lost their citizenship, you may need documents showing why, like naturalization records in another country or proof of exile, such as asylum records or immigration documents, or emigration documents, I should say. Marriage and death certificates of your ancestor may also be required, especially if they married abroad or are deceased. All non-Spanish documents must be legalized with an apostille or through the consulate and translated into Spanish by a certified translator. If you're applying under the exile category, additional proof like political asylum records or testimonies from historical organizations can strengthen your case, though some consulates don't strictly require exile proof. Here's an example to make this clear. Let's say your grandmother was born in Spain in 1920, fled to Mexico during the Civil War in 1939, and became a Mexican citizen, losing her Spanish nationality. You, her grandchild, were born in Mexico. You'd need her Spanish birth certificate, her Spanish naturalization records or other proof of exile, your parents' birth certificate showing, they're her child, and your own birth certificate. All documents not in Spanish need apostilles and translations. If you can't find your grandmother's Spanish birth certificate, you might request it from the Registro Civil in her hometown or check church records for a baptismal certificate. This process can take time, especially if records are in another country or from decades ago, so start early. And I would say birth, marriage, and death certificates for every generation. Even if you weren't doing this process, this is good record keeping. You should have birth, marriage, and death certificates for every single one of your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. So if you have 4 grandparents, you should have all of their birth certificates. If you have 8 great-grandparents, you should have all of their birth certificates. That's just good housekeeping. So now let's talk about where and how to submit your application. If you live outside Spain, you'll apply at the Spanish consulate or embassy in your country of residence. Each consulate has its own system for appointments, and some, like those in Argentina and Cuba, are heavily backlogged due to high demand. Apparently, 40% of applications come from Argentina alone. Check your consulate's website for specific requirements as they can vary. For example, some require digital pre-registration, while others accept postal submissions. Spain's Ministry of Foreign Affairs recently introduced a digital application system to streamline the process, allowing you to create a consular user account and upload documents online. If you secure an appointment or register your application before October 21st, 2025, you can continue the process even after the deadline, potentially until 2028, as long as you've started it on time. So there may be a strategy to submit an incomplete application, knowing they're going to ask you for more documents in the future, but at least you get the process started and you submit your application before the deadline. If you live in Spain and have legal residency, you can potentially apply at the local Registro Civil with your Padrón certificate proving your address. Always double check with the consulate or registry, as requirements can differ slightly. And by the way, Maybe at this point in time, I'll mention that MyLatinLife is a full-scale immigration consultant. We help people get residency and citizenship in Spain and in every country in Latin America. We can help you get your birth certificate from any country in Latin America. We can help you get your parents' and grandparents' birth certificates from any country in Latin America or Spain or Portugal. That's what we focus on. So if you would like to hire a lawyer or immigration consultant to avoid mistakes and to eliminate all the stress and headaches, look no further. We can help. There's a link in the description to this video where you can book a call with us to get the process started. And again, let's get the process started ASAP to make sure we can get in before the deadline. And even if we might not make the deadline, maybe you're watching this video 6 months in the future, still book a call with us. There's always solutions in Latin America and in Spain. So if there's a will, there's a way. And by the way, let's talk a bit about the benefits of Spanish citizenship. Why would you even want to pursue this? Well, first, you get the right to live, work, and study in Spain or any EU country without a visa. A Spanish passport is one of the most powerful in the world, granting visa-free travel to about 190 countries. You can pass the citizenship to your children, preserving your family's heritage. Plus, if you're from a country with a dual citizenship agreement, you don't have to give up your current nationality. Honestly, I think the whole dual citizenship thing in Spain is a bit overblown, especially for people getting citizenship by descent, which is what we're talking about in this case. If you were to naturalize as someone with no ties to Spain, the dual citizenship thing could be a bit of a concern. But for people doing this from Spanish descent, you're not going to have to renounce your previous nationalities. You can be almost sure of that. Now let's cover some common mistakes to avoid. One big error is assuming a Spanish surname or family stories are enough. They're not. You need official documents to prove lineage and eligibility. You can't just say, oh yeah, my grandparent. Like, you have to have the documents, okay? Submitting expired, incomplete, or non-translated documents is another frequent issue. Ensure documents are recent, apostilled, and translated by a certified translator. Applying under the wrong eligibility category or ignoring consulate-specific rules can also lead to rejection. For example, some consulates may ask for extra proof of exile, while others don't. If your application is denied, you have 1 month to appeal, so keep copies of everything and consider legal help for a stronger case. Another mistake is waiting too long to start. If you miss the October 21st deadline, this opportunity may not come again, as similar laws in 1995 and in 2007 were separated by over a decade. And what if you can't find all the documents? Well, you can still start the process. Spanish consulates must accept incomplete applications and give you 30 days to provide missing records. If your ancestor's birth certificate is unavailable, alternatives like baptismal records, immigration files, or historical census entries can sometimes work, though they don't replace official civil documents. The birth certificate really is the gold standard here. If your ancestor became a citizen of another country, you'll need to show whether they lost Spanish nationality voluntarily or due to exile or persecution. A lawyer or genealogist can help track down hard-to-find records, especially in countries with less accessible archives. Another question we get is, can minors or adult children apply? Yes, but each person must apply separately, even if they're siblings or children of someone eligible. If you gain citizenship, your minor children under 18 can apply through a simpler process called nacionalidad por opción, but they still need to prove their lineage. Adult children must meet the same documentation standards as you. If you're applying from abroad, your legal residence determines which consulate handles your case, so check their specific procedures. And if you're approved, what's next? You'll register at the consulate or registro civil in Spain, get your Spanish DNI, and apply for that coveted Spanish passport. This final step can take a few weeks. Most people think that a passport and citizenship are the same thing, but what actually happens is you get recognized as a citizen first, and then once you're recognized, then you can order the passport, because the passport is really just a travel document. The passport isn't citizenship. You'll actually get recognized earlier than that. Cool? And if you plan to move to Spain or the EU, your Spanish citizenship are going to open doors to work, education, and healthcare benefits. To wrap up, the Democratic Memory Law is a once-in-a-generation chance to claim Spanish citizenship if you have Spanish ancestry. With the deadline extended to October 21st, 2025, you have a limited window to act. Start gathering documents now: birth certificates, marriage records, proof of nationality, and exile documents if applicable. Check your consulate's requirements, budget for costs, and submit your application as early as possible to avoid backlogs. If you're unsure about your eligibility or need help with documents, consider consulting an immigration lawyer or genealogist to streamline the process. Don't let this opportunity slip away. Securing a Spanish passport could change your life and that of your children and connect you with your heritage in a profound way. If you have any questions or need guidance, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And again, if you really want to start taking action, there's a link in the description to book a call with us and get the process started. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.